Hey, it's Eric Carlene here. We're going to jump right in here to section 2 of the purchase contract, which is financing. As we stated earlier, your pre-qual form has to be incorporated with the offer. This is why when you're working with me, you're always going to get pre-qual first. So this way we have that document in hand to submit to the offer. The next thing that we're going to cover is right here, lines 70 all the way through 82. We're going to start with the loan contingency. Buyer's obligation to complete the sale contingent upon buyer loan approval without prior to documentation conditions no later than 3 days prior to the close of the escrow date of the loan described in the AAR loan status update or the LSU or the pre-qual form, whichever is delivered later. No later than 3 days prior to the close of escrow date, buyer shall either 1, sign all loan documents, 2, deliver to seller or escrow company notice of loan approval without PTD conditions and dates, of receipt of closing disclosures from lender or deliver to seller or escrow company notice of inability to obtain loan approval without PTD conditions. This is all kind of, we're going to be working with you and the lender just to make sure all of this stuff is met, because we want to make sure that you're covered and well qualified and all the documents are there on time. If section 2C, unfulfilled loan contingency, this contract shall be canceled and buyer shall be entitled to a return of the earnest money if after diligent and good faith effort, buyer is unable to obtain loan approval without PTD conditions and deliver notice of inability to obtain loan approval no later than 3 days prior to the close of the escrow date. So if you're doing as much as you can to get qualified for the loan, but for some reason during the lending process it falls apart, you do get your money back. But you have to follow these rules specifically, and this is why I want to cover it. If buyer fails to deliver such notice, seller may issue a cure notice to buyers as required by Section 7A. In the event of buyer's breach, seller shall be entitled to the earnest money pursuant to Section 7B if prior expiration of any cure period, buyer delivers notice of the inability to obtain loan approval, buyer shall be entitled to a return of the earnest money. Buyer acknowledges that prepaid items separately from earnest money are not refundable. Those items would include your inspections and possibly the appraisal. So we're going to jump right here to interest rates. Buyer agrees that the inability to obtain loan approval due to failure to lock the interest rates and points by separate written agreement with the lender or failure to have the down payment or other funds due from buyer necessity to obtain the loan approval without conditions and the close this transaction is not fulfilled loan contingency. If you don't quite understand this, our lender will be, or your lender will be walking you through this. So this way, all this is a little more clear, and hopefully when you're working with our lenders that you won't even be in this situation. It's one of these things that things do happen, and except for the failure to have funds. When you have it, make sure it's in your hand when we actually do the contract. Let's see, loan status update. The lender is going to be submitting this every week, so we will be keeping on top of that. The next thing is, which is that I want to cover, is any seller concessions. Here it is. Sometimes when buyers are purchasing their home for the first time, sometimes they're short on cash, or else they want to keep cash because when you purchase the home, the first year is the most expensive because you're going to be furnishing it, add your decorations, anything to make the home yours. So it's very common to ask for seller or closing cost assistance, and this is where we include this. It can be offered as a percentage and right here, or what I prefer to do is asking for an exact amount. This way, if there's any changes in price, the actual dollar value is still left the same. And please note that it is used to be only buyer's loan costs, impounds, title and escrow costs, recording fees, and if applicable, VA loans costs not permitted to be paid for by the buyer. So if you need some extra closing cost assistance, this is where we include it. The next thing is the appraisal contingency. The appraisal contingency basically states its buyer's obligations to complete this sale is contingent upon an appraisal of the premises acceptable to the lender at the purchase price. If premises fails to appraise for the purchase contract and any appraisal requirement by the lender, buyer has 5 days after notice of the appraised value to cancel this contract and receive a refund of the earnest money, or the appraisal contingency shall be waived unless prohibited by federal law. What this is stating is that when you purchased a property, the bank actually orders the appraisal on their behalf, or you pay for the appraisal, but it's for the bank's behalf, just to make sure they are securing their investment. If the property appraises at the purchase contract, there's no issues, but if it appraises below the asking price or the purchase contract, then a couple things can happen. We go through, we renegotiate, or else it kills the deal. But you do get your earnest money back. The next section is the appraisal cost. Typically, the buyer is the one that purchases the appraisal. In certain circumstances, the seller will, but in majority of cases, it's always a buyer cost. And that really sums up the whole part of section 2 for the finances. And I will see you in the next step, the next video for title and escrow section 3. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me immediately so I can address them then. Thank you. Have a great day.